Hello all, welcome to Lore Lines. Today we're on episode 43, Endwalker Spoilercast Part 4, discussing Garlemald. You may recall last week we attempted to try to do Favnir, Garlemald, and the goddamn moon, and it definitely didn't work out. So today we're focusing on Garlemald. Warning to those who think that it's sensitive content, please feel free to curate your experience. This is a very balanced episode where we will be discussing all of the depression and suffering, as well as the bad things that I've done that led to it. So if that's a sensitive topic, feel free to skip this one. We're happy to have you join up again next week. But basically, I'm going to open up the cast and welcome one and all. I know that Arden is very excited to discuss Loporits, so if we get there, we'll have fun with that. Spoiler,
yeah.
People hate bunnies, but also love bunnies.
I love bunnies, but
welcome all.
rabbits should be made into stew.
Into stew.
So how about that Pokemon Legends Arceus?
What?
Not, I mean...
Talking about the Pokemans?
No.
Do you want me to? Do you want me to tell the Garlemald thing?
I'm sorry, I had to open up stream with that. I apologize to everyone here.
Good, you should.
I'm not sorry, actually.
I mean, if we're discussing Garlemald, I just can't tell the thing I just told you, but.
Yeah, well, we'll save that for later.
Okay.
So, where were we last week?
Yeah, if I remember, we had discussed the intro battle scenario, which was incredible. We can rehash it if you'd like. We were just finishing up base camp and starting to explore the area nearby.
I think we start up with Camp Broken Glass. We started up with that. And we started up with the mini duty that we got. Right. And then we kind of got up to Licinia, I think is her name.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, this is Thancred. Yeah,
and yes, Metal Gear Thancred.
Oh God.
I need one for this is kind of a spoiler getting ahead, but I want the one Neela suggested. This is Fandaniel.
This is Fandaniel. Yeah, they'd
yes.
both be good. I would play both of those games. Like, I mean, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you play Metal Gear Thancred? And this is Fandaniel. They'd both be
Only
like
fans Daniel.
Solid Snake, Liquid Snake.
Yeah, this is like S tier content. Square Enix, if you're listening, please make these two games. They can be on mobile. They can be on pixel remaster style. I don't care. Make them. They're gonna be awesome.
What did you eat today?
Blueberries?
Back to topic.
Popsicles in the snow.
So we basically make camp in Camp Broken Glass.
Camp Broken Glass, which was a fantastic name by Lucia.
What do you expect from his guardians?
Garlemald, by the way.
Yeah.
Garleans, by the way. Formerly Garleans, turned Ishgardian, now comes back to Garlemald's like, man, I hate walking around in the snow. It sounds like broken glass. You know what? That's a good name.
I mean, it is a battalion camp. Like, you know, they could have called it Cheeseburger and...
It's we actually the name of the village, the abandoned village we make camp in, which is broken glass, is Laterum. It basically means to the west or to the flank. So yeah, it's basically named after what it is.
It's a geographic name.
Yes.
Regarding Camp Broken Glass, I think it's fitting. It's just highly offensive to people who've lost their homes. So.
Maybe that's the point, to make us feel worse.
There's actually a lot of empty villages and empty homes in Garlemald. You just kind of have to fly around and look.
So we were we had followed the girl out to what we thought was some sort of retirement village for retired soldiers. My initial impression of this area was even though it's destroyed and burned out and all of this, it still wasn't impressive. I mean, what a place to retire after serving as a legatus somewhere.
And the radio thing, that was completely unexpected of that as well. Like, they had a radio and they were spared the tempering because of the way it was made, or because of its components.
Yeah, which is quite intriguing because according to the post scene, these radios are made with, I think, was it orsite? And I can't recall. All I recall for certain is that it's mined from Locus Amenus, the Garlean homeland, Corvus.
I actually do forget the ore they made it with. There's the component itself.
I don't know. I
Was
know
that
that.
covered in a side quest?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Unless
I'm
it was
not sure.
like a one-liner in MSQ. I
Yeah.
did do every side quest in this zone.
Same, but I can't for the life of me, I can't recall if it's orsite.
I don't think it's
But
ours. I think
it would be really interesting if it was orsite, though.
Chad, if you could help us out, we're supposed to be the experts, but this one has slipped me.
We still need to replay through Endwalker a number of times yet.
I'm just gonna wait for New Game Plus for that.
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, Midnight
And,
Colruyt says, not gonna lie, I thought the radio was the cause of tempering due to them hearing the voice of the Emperor, until they specifically flat out said it was protecting them from tempering. Yeah, same exact vibe. They did a switch on us, and it was really cool. I was really impressed with the storytelling in the zone.
All it really did was create the voice into lo-fi format, so that's how they got.
Tempering doesn't
That's how
work
they
if
were
it's in
spared.
lo-fi.
That's right. Instead of listening to straight up NPR radio, they got lo-fi.
Yeah, so I've got a bunch of
I've
YouTube
seen-
links for you guys, and it'll protect you from becoming the thralls of a demigod.
I really like that one because yes, I've seen a lot of people pointing how the Garlean culture basically made them resort to a desperate icon summoning under circumstances, but at the same time it was the emperor who protected them, basically, in a sense. So I think it's kind of an inversion, so to speak. Or, well, I'm not sure if the emperor, perhaps, but there's something about the radio and the theme it plays, and it's constantly playing. They think it's the key for those who were spared the tempering. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I think you
know
are.
there's some.
I don't fully agree. There's definitely some poetic aspect to that is
Yes,
correct,
definitely.
but not factually. Like, the dude's dead, and it's a recording.
Yeah.
But I think poetically, that's pretty cool catch.
But I and that what you mentioned about it's a manner for retired soldiers, but you said it's not quite impressive. Well, that's the feeling I got from what's not blasted to pieces in Garamond. The city itself is really. I've seen. I honestly, flying around Garamond, I've seen towers that I was like, oh my god, this is straight up. This is straight up taken from Amaroth. There's only one tower pretty much standing. It's like I now get the reference for how high the buildings were when this was not, well, that smoking crater, but
You say smoking crater, and I just think of Alice's trust line.
Yeah. Man, she is aggro.
Chill beats to bereft hope and dignity too.
But the thing I got from flying over Garmal and checking the architecture and everything is that they are quite what's the word, austere.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not really one. I mean,
threadbare, purpose built, not impressive.
Yeah, it's quite. I mean, for all they could do, the buildings are rather not pretentious. It's basically cut from stone, and that's all.
Well, on this subject, I mean, I know it's not MSQ, but just to go into this very quickly, with the capital city being like, obviously it's a modern cityscape, but the construction isn't that impressive. I mean, I was more impressed by the guard tower that they built on top of the bridge in the Fringes. I mean, and Baelsar's wall, how huge. So with this level of construction,
and the cerulean pipeline, as well as the kind of the I don't know what you call it, the platform out in the middle of the cerulean,
the cerulean rig,
the oil rig,
yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like compared to the construction they made in the provinces, or even the Imperial military's airship armada, all of this stuff, and then the city is just kind of, it's just kind of a city.
Well,
it doesn't get better till you get to the left side of it, and then it becomes more of a metal, I'd say, complex.
Yeah.
But then
we also don't really get to see much of the city in the grand scheme of things either, because what's there would only be a very small portion of what was the capital. I imagine there's more on the other side of what became of the palace.
Probably,
and I'd also imagine that it used to look like something else, but now, because of all the fighting, it's practically charred to the bone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can
what's
see the
not
skeletons
charred,
of the row houses, though. I mean, they're, you know, this is like a, well, Ayumi, you live in the U.S. I mean, this is like a 12-15 month property. You know, 3 rooms.
What is that supposed to mean?
I'm saying that the grandeur of the empire that we see in the provinces does not seem to be reflected in the city. It's an interesting flip.
Well, what I mean by like charred to the bone is that it was probably more than likely built upon stone. I mean, most buildings are when they're started with construction, and then built with metal over it. So what had probably happened was, within all the fighting, the metal had burnt away, leaving just the stone pillars behind.
It's possible too, and there's the thing too, that when the Guardians were tempered, every soldier and citizen began taking scraps of the city
too,
to build the Tower of Babel. So I mean, yeah, I don't think that I'm not sure if the Imperial Palace was as big, but they definitely found Daniel and Xenos definitely made it bigger and creepier.
Because Thancred did mention that they were kind of stripping down buildings and taking it to kind of construct the tower.
Yeah,
they took a page out of Titania's book, Bigger is Better.
Bigger is better.
At least in Fandaniel's book.
I mean, you need an enormous spire of chaos and damnation to shoot at the moon.
If you had held on a little bit more in silence, I don't know, we would have gone down a dark path.
I mean, I'm trying to thread that needle, so.
Back to the sisters.
Yes.
So we meet Lucinia and what was thought to be just a voice or something in the house there. Yeah. And we meet the rest of the cast, who are kind of just sheltered there. With the radio, she explains that they were spared the unfortunate fate that the rest of Garlemald suffered. And we are going out to look for ceruleum to power their, I don't know, I guess they had heaters?
They're heaters.
Mm-hmm.
But they still have that lingering hatred for Eorzines.
Not just hatred, but fear.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more fear turned to a touch of hatred because of fear than it is.
Well, because we came back to Alphanau being attacked.
Yeah, so the order of events, we show up at camp, we have a short conversation with them. They seem like really nervous, but basically no worse than you would expect from the survivors of a catastrophic civilization level failure, hanging out in a shack, scrounging for resources. seems pretty okay. So we go up to the pavilion. We
Retreat.
sit down. We listen to the radio. Kind of feel the despair in the zone, and then I think we wander off to help them in some way. And we come back, and
there's supposedly a cave that they knew about where cerulean was mined, and we went to them.
Yes. And they are conscripts, basically, and the tappers are basically like, what the fuck are you helping the guardians? And then you explain, and you say you could go with now because, well, Garlemald is not in any shape to stop you, and they're like, yeah, but where will we go? Because we'll learn our trade here, so we're going to stay.
that's right. We have work here.
That's all we know.
Our old homes are long gone. We are here now, for ill or for better or worse. We are basically guardians. So
I mean, as strange though it may be, I mean, it's part of course, of the Empire's deeds, but at the end of the day, a great civilization is also built upon this, because people who stay, because even if they don't like, even if they don't really like, or they resent the civilization that conquered them, but they decide to, well, I don't like them, but I'm going to stay because I don't have anything else to do, and then their offspring will be raised within the civilization, and then the hatred will, over generations, how do you call it, dissipate or
that's right.
dissolve.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
I mean, that's how civilizations are made. It sounds rough, but it's happened many times through history.
Integration often takes 2 generations, sometimes 3.
So we go back to the retreat, and we find Afna's been attacked, and Licinia and her sister have straight up fled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
good job,
we try
guys.
and track them. We try and track them down. We find some clues as to where or what they have been up to, and it's not looking good.
No. And
So where the Imperial Army normally would have kept the wildlife in check, in their total and utter absence, the land is beset by what appear to be void scent, yetis, other horrible monsters that one should absolutely be afraid of unless you're the Warrior Blight. And they're trying to make it somewhere where we aren't, because they're utterly afraid of the monsters we have to be. Right?
Yes, I mean the wildlife. Yeah. By the way, Colrad's in chat. According to my look back, the Aether of the Ore used in the radio is akin to the one used in the talismans that is protected from tempering that we got from Thafnir.
Thank you.
Really interesting things going on in Locus Amenus or Corvus. Things to mine for.
Yes.
So yeah, basically we find Licinia and her sister basically,
attacked.
They're bled out, bodies cold, dead in the snow.
And that's when
it kind of makes you wonder how quickly or how recent it had been, because bodies don't go cold that quickly, but it kind of do in that environment.
Yeah, it's about the region we're in.
Yeah. And that's when I have to say that's pretty much the first real punch the player receives in Endwalker.
That was our test lean.
I wasn't affected that way because of being desensitized over several expansions. I thought it was a damn shame, a real shame, but I wasn't in tears.
It was my first indication that this was going to be a very rough zone, very tough zone to explain.
This sets the tone. That's what this whole scene from
the scene when the twins realize that, oh fuck, and for the twins that's a real punch too, because they were doing what they thought it was best, and it scared the Guardians so much that they fled and met their deaths. Because of course Alfino and Alice if you recall, they start healing the refugees with magic, and that's
they don't like it.
They're scared to the core about that, and they thought it was safer to run away through this blasted plane of ice rather than magic. But for Alfino and Alice, it was so normal because that's what they've been doing all their life. But it's not it's not that way for the Guardians, and for them it hits hard that what they thought again and that's the what they thought they were doing for the best. It
showed that the twins have book smarts, but they're lacking in worldly knowledge. Because all in all, the twins should have known that the Garleans were freaking terrified of magic, but they just didn't.
I'm not sure, because all the Guardians we've met prior to going to Garlemald, you've seen Julius. The military is used to magic, but the citizens, no, they're not. And pretty much all the Guardians we've met, Sid, Maxima,
it's a propaganda
Gaius,
thing. It's true. Yeah.
They're military. They're closely aligned to the military. Nero, Lucia, and Lucia's been all the spent years in Ishgard, so she doesn't count.
Yeah, I think
I'm just saying that it's information that would have been brought back from Thancred and Riel and
possibly
even Charlene through reconnaissance that, hey, the citizenry is freaking terrified of magic. They would know of the propaganda going on.
Would they care so much to have looked into it? Because from
you wouldn't have to look into it because it would be so prevalent.
Yeah.
I don't really mean in that way. I mean, for there's of course a goodwill for the Ilsvar contingent to go into Garlemald and try to help. The problem is they went there with their good intentions, but it's still an invasion from the Guardian point of view, and they pointed out. They go in there because they expect some benefit from it as well. Even if they say they're not expecting the Guardians to help them fight the Telophori. It's
for narrative purpose or otherwise, it just seems like this wasn't considered. So one could sit in judgment or not. I don't think that the twins should be given outsized blame for this, because it
they
seems
don't
like
deserve the
nobody's
blame.
really considered it. Even if we have the facts, it's just not been our lived experience.
We expected to go in there and help them as best we could, extend a hand, and just expect to, say, oh yeah, let's you're finally trying to make peace with us. Sure, we'll help. That's not how it works.
We'll be seen as liberators.
We've literally killed their kind and oppressed them as far back as, well, when they first settled in this land.
Yeah.
As Corvos, even. So
yeah, the lived experience of our generation and the two prior is not the historical experience they're learning from textbooks and their generations and generations before them had lived. So it's completely different perspective on the world and its events.
The leaders of today are foreign to the wars of their even forebears. So what they think is, kind of jaded.
This is
I think
curious
it goes
in context
both
of our
ways,
1,000-year
though.
Ishgardian War. It's like, how long has it really been? Under 1,000 years, for sure. It's an interesting juxtaposition.
I mean, it's. I think it's a both way thing, because Eorzea isn't precisely a field of flowers.
It's not. No, it's not. It's built on its own kind of history of war. I mean, take a look at Limsa Lominsa.
I wasn't even thinking of Limsa Lominsa. I always bring up Alamigo when it comes to Garlemald and Alamigo, because Stormblood. But because the story is quite...
Oh, I'm talking about like straight up invasion, taking over other people's lands and food because you want to survive on your own.
That's the thing. If you allow a quick recap of the thing with Alamigo and Garlemald, because I think people often think that Garlemald walk into the place because
Yeah,
yes, and
I would say
that's
go into
not.
it for sure.
Yep. Then we'll go into Euless.
Yes. The thing with Alamigo, and it's explained. I don't know if it was side quest or I think it was side quest in the fringes and the peaks, something like that, and the monk quest line. And the thing is that when there was Mad King Theodoric on throne, the Alamigan resistance was formed to overthrow Mad King Theodoric, not for the Garleans. The Alamigan resistance was formed prior to that, but they didn't have the force, the military force needed to overthrow
The Mad King.
Theodoric. Yes. So the Garleans had already been. They were already in Verlit, which is the closest province to Alamigo, and they decided to basically approach the Garleans and say, "Hey, we need military help to overthrow Mad King Theodoric. If we make an agreement, well, I don't. It's not specified what they agreed to in terms, but they form an alliance with. I take it was Gaius's forces, I guess.
The 14th Legion, yeah.
Yes. And they go together, the Guardians and the Almigan resistance, and they overthrow the Mad King Theodoric. Up until that point, well, of course, this being an agreement of military factions, a foreign military, and in an alliance, everything, there has to be something they agreed to that the one side has to offer the other.
Compromise.
Yeah, basically. And when the Guardians went, not the Autumn War. It's the Autumn War was the war between Gridania and Alamigo. And so when the Guardians, of course, go to the Almigan resistance and they tell them, "Hey, well, we've done this, and the king is overthrown. We've got won. Now we want the part of the agreement that we arrived to." And the Almigan resistance basically told them to scram, and it was probably not the most intelligent idea to ever made. And
No.
So when people say about no, Garlemald invited Alamigo, yes, it's true, but that's because the Almigan resistance didn't respect the agreement for the alliance. So Garlemald was like, okay, you kind of
annexed.
Yeah, so you deceived us. Now we're going to take what we agreed by force. So yeah.
I just wanted to address a question in the chat. It was quite a while ago, but Zombie said, "Good afternoon. I have not gone to your Discord to discuss theories, but I am a member. Is there a specific area to chat about theories?" There is.
It's actually across a lot of the parts of our Discord, but specific areas in general do pertain to specific areas in the game.
We have a subsection for 6.1 and on. We have one for 1.0 to 6.0. Every conceivable section. There's a theory crafting channel in each of these groupings. So yeah, if you don't see everything, you might need to go to our role selection and just pick data center and spoiler access up at the top of the chat. But once you do that, you'll have access to everything.
And for those that have not completed the game and joined the Discord, it is a spoiler-heavy Discord.
Yeah.
So please keep that in mind if you do select your role and wish to see the rest of the Discord. You will be spoiled. It is not a joke.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Thou shalt be
serious,
spoiled.
Yeah. So to just stay in the if you for some reason have not completed MSQ yet, I don't know why you're here, but welcome. We love you anyway.
Back to
but just be
Euless.
advised.
So
But yeah, so we head back to camp, and then Euless, he
Hmm.
shows up. He's trying to steal, but we learn pretty quickly it's a gambit.
He's
right?
quite young. He's quite young. We don't know how old he may be, but if you speak with Maxima in that scene, well, after that introduction scene, because his name is Julius Pierre Norbanus, and Pierre, I don't recall exactly what the rank is, but it's quite high in the military, and Maxima even comments on that. It's really rare for someone so young to achieve such a high
Pierre
rank.
is an executive officer chosen by the
Oh,
Centurion.
This is a captain equivalent, basically.
basically, yes, yeah. He serves directly, pretty much directly under the legatus. So yeah.
Yeah, basically that. But like you said, he gets caught trying to steal, gets brought forth, and then he brings out his intentions. And we are chosen, but along with Alfnaut and Alice, to go with him to go and talk to his legatus. So we follow him back to Tertium, and we meet Quintus Van Kina.
Yes, Lord Quintus Vanquina.
Just a tiny bit of Garlean naming lore. I pulled up the list. Pierre is just below Centurion. The Centurion ranks are Quo and Rem. And then you have, Sas, Tol, Van. It's in that order. So this is like it's an officer for sure, but it's kind of mid-low officer tier. It is an executive post. It's not a
Yeah, an executive officer chosen by his Centurion.
correct.
Yes.
So you have, for example, Livia Sas Junius, right? So she was 2 tiers above that. But he's definitely not a regular soldier.
Going back to Pierre, or rather,
to be fair, his rank is high, but he's one step below Fordola, and Fordola was a non-native. She was from the provinces, so I think it tells a lot of how valued Fordola was.
Sas is the highest non-Garlean rank that you can attain.
Yeah, and Fordola was only one step below that. She's Rem.
No wonder they were pissed. She got boosted. The wolf wants to hunt her own.
Asahi was actually the highest rank that we've seen so far that a non-Garlean achieved. Asahi Sas Brutus.
Yeah, fair.
So Lord Quintus, we this quest on the way out to the area, in general, I didn't like follow along quests, but this one was done so well. To walk through the snow and keep an eye out for enemies and threats and kind of sneak halfway, and then he tells us, by the way, this isn't where we're actually going. I just wasn't going to tell you my secrets. I'm not an idiot. Right. I really like this. I just want to remind, maybe we can do a little bit of memory lane on the set piece of wandering across the snowy wastes.
Yes.
So then we follow the train tracks north, and we make a left into what appears to be a subway tunnel.
Yeah, that's Tertium. It's actually named, I know because of the vista. Tertium is named like that because it's the third station of the Garlean capital main underground subway whatever line. It's because of the third. Because it's the third station. Sorry. But I really like say like it's a strange word when it comes to the state of Garlemald, but I really enjoyed the ambience of Tertium in that. Anyways, sorry.
That's fine. So with Quintus, we actually kind of go over part 2 of what Varys had to say at the Gimblick Dark cutscene. We basically had the same conversation with him as we did with Varys, in that we are here not as, peacekeepers, but as invaders in his eyes. And with every type of rebuttal to his little speech that he made, he would spit basically facts and kind of different points of view at us that kind of made us think, are these facts? Is this actually really our fault? Is this on us or is this on them? And it's not exactly an apologist type of thing. It's, you got to see both sides of the story here. They're doing what they do because this happened, and we're doing what we do because this happened.
Mm-hmm.
I went ahead and linked the Reddit post that a user
That's fine.
had given us from the RIP from Great Ubal Library. So yeah, we in Heaven's Word there was a side text that gave us the rank structure.
Yes. Yes, I really enjoyed that scene. I think that scene with Lord Quintus was so well done. Well, every scene with Lord Quintus, to be fair, because he is well, of course, he's a military veteran. He's not a sugar coated. He doesn't hold any sugar coated ideals, and even I mean and he's quite civil when he's explaining all of this to Alfino and Alice.
He's not angry like Varys
no.
was. He wasn't very passionate.
Well,
No,
he's also quite aged. He's like a wizened elder, probably the oldest of the generals.
Probably, but
So.
he's well, of course, he's a bit sour after all the things that happen, but he's not uncivil. He isn't you don't get that vibe from Quintus. You get that he's a stubborn old general, well, holds the values of Garlemald to heart, and that's that. You don't see any. You don't really see any. Any despective uh, he doesn't deprecate us in any form. If anything, of course, he points out the naivete of what Alfino and Alice are trying to do.
Yeah, I liked Quintus a lot for a bunch of reasons. I couldn't quite place him. It's been too long since I studied Roman history, but Cinna was a 4-time consul of the Roman Empire, serving consecutive terms. They picked the right name to imply, like, wizened elder, been around the block. They gave him generalship of the 1st Legion, which probably means the 1st Legion, not just numerically. But inheriting whenever that particular legion came to be made, he inherited that post. So it strikes me that he has all of the right vibes for, like, kind of the full, all of the things you might imagine that, like, a proper upstanding Roman general might embody.
Yes.
He has those qualities, including, woe to the vanquished. So they're in a bad spot. They're not giving up. They're going to keep trying, and they're going to be stubborn about it. Even when they can get help, they're going to do their absolute best to push us out of their territory. And that's kind of what happens to a depressing extent.
What happened to Ayumi?
Good question.
Did he disappear?
Mm-hmm. His internet died, he says.
F.
Live chat. Internet died. He will be back.
Okay.
Assuming his internet comes back.
Please do check live chat, Arden and Shadow Meow.
Okay. Yeah.
But we will
Okay.
continue on. So we're still discussing the Tertium, the third stop on the subway line. And
Sorry, what was the question? I kind of
no, I'm looking for help to push us forward. So we're talking about Quintus, and I kind of went on a ramble
Tertium.
here.
Well, one thing I really like of Tertium, that's speaking around with the people in there, especially those that recognize you as the champion of Eorzea. Because it's kind of it's kind of the switch. I know people maybe like I've seen people react to them calling us a murderer in many ways, but they're like they're like who are you calling? I've seen many people react to them as who are you calling murderer? Like, have you seen yourself? And it's like you're missing the point.
Yeah. Yeah, the point is where everyone's guilty of sins in a world where you have to fight for your life. Like, it's not our fault we're
Yes.
super strong. I mean, I guess it is. Like, good job us. But
No, but I mean that poor soldier that was scared as fuck.
the ones who
Because
stepped away in the car.
she was in the Praetorium that the night that it fell, and it was like, oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me, and may have done it when the cutscenes were skippable. May have done it more than once.
So on this scene, one thing that struck me the most, I mean, they make a very blatant showcase of it, but when they're putting on the shock collars to the twins, which, by the way, they could break out of them too, they're not weak. But assumption that this will merely tickle us. Don't mess with Warrior of Light. Not worth it. We're gonna try to hit them in a way that's more like a blackmail, where they want to protect their friends, and they're gonna play along where we absolutely could not capture this individual otherwise.
Yes.
I really like that scene.
There's some actually military respect paid by Quintus to the Warrior of Light.
Oh yeah.
By this act. I mean,
absolutely.
Like, he knows who we are. He's just he knew all along, and he's just like, don't bother.
Yeah. We don't have much left. Let's not waste resources here. This is a gambit. It might work, it might not. It's our last try. So
I mean, they know perfectly that the Warrior of Light, if they wanted, they could kill Julius, take the shocking device away, and slaughter all of Tertium. But the Guardians there, they don't really have much to lose. So
yeah, taking from the Shadowbringers dialogue, before our absolute might, this child's toy will do nothing.
Yeah, basically. But anyways, they basically, Alfina and Alice decide to, we're here to help, so it's fine.
Yep.
Leave the thing, and it may actually help us get some trust from the Guardians if we act their ways, and yeah, it actually does.
So after this, Quintus sends us with orders with Euless, and we go to look for Ceruleum up in the city. And we make our way through the city. We see smote ruins, ruined Magitech, no survivors really anywhere. And we make our way up to the park, which is named after the Emperor, Solus.
Forum Solus. I mean, that was one of the times that Garlemald. I knew they were going to do it, but one of the times Garlemald hit for. They aim for the heart, and it's like, fuckers. I was expecting that shot, though. I have. I mean, to be fair, if do you know in the cutscene with Quintus, there's a moment in which you can choose between two replies. one is the bottom one is the something about to share the warmth of heart, and if you choose that one, it shows the word of light remembers Horsefand. And if you choose the first one, which is because Quintus asks, why are you doing this? Why are you even after this? Why are you still willing to help? And the first one is because even the most bitter of adversaries may once see reason or something like that. If you pick that one, it shows a Metzelk. And I was and I picked that one, and it was like, fuck. when of course the word of life remembers Metzelk, and I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
I was like, that was the first hit for me.
This,
For those who picked the second one, Forum Solius was probably the first hit. For me, it was the second.
I was gonna say this expansion, this part of the expansion, isn't really about forgiveness. It's about understanding.
Yes.
It's
There's
this is not good. I mean, nobody in the Orzian Alliance who came along. I'm sure there's plenty of people who are just absolute hatred is levied towards their conquerors and people pushing on their lands. But everyone who came, like, nobody wanted to see this area of the world to be this destroyed. It's nuts. I mean, even if we had invaded, this would not have been the result. This is some chaotic nightmare caused by an Asian.
Well, even that doesn't mean that. I'm not going to speak here in terms of the Asians as a whole. I'm more in this. I would say it's more like Emmett Selk's trademark that he actually was quite forthcoming in Shadowbringers. It's like, listen, we may spread the seeds of chaos, but we simply that's all we do. What comes from them, it's what the people decide to do. We've discussed this many times. It's like putting a gun in your hands, and it's and it's the test to see if you have the uh, let's say moral compass to do what's right with the power you've done with the power you're offered.
You're given the gun, but they're not making you pull the trigger.
I do agree with you, but I want to push back on this a little bit because Fandaniel is
Sorry.
not acting to code. He's not acting to code. He's doing some crazy shit. And who does he give the gun? Right? Gives the gun to Xenos. So it's not letting the people pull the trigger. It's letting a person pull a huge trigger.
Oh, well, Xenos wasn't exactly what I mean.
I'm just saying that this is a little different from prior examples.
Yeah, well, in that sense, yes, because of who gets to hold the gun. Fuck, I can't speak today.
That's right. But this isn't someone who's and you know, we know how Endwalker ends, but this is not someone who heretofore has been convinced somehow that you know, nihilism is now the answer. He's always kind of been like this. He's broken somehow, and so giving a broken person who doesn't value life at all the biggest gun on the planet, the gun being
that was
spanning right.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
How unfortunate.
But all to plan, though. All to plan.
But yes, we get to the park, and that's when I really love the tidbits there when the twins, of course, they're like it's kind of strange that there's a park here, and then Jules explains, no, the park was built first, then the buildings came after, and then he quotes the words of Emperor Solus when probably on probably on what were the the ingredients to a healthy society, and it was like, yes, he did have some talent for nation building.
Yep. His penchant for nation building. Colref made a
Yes.
funny in chat. I just want to bring that to voice here. Fan Daniel gives the gun to someone who just wants to toss hands with his friend, his enemy, and is a product of the Empire that he doesn't care about in the long run due to his upbringing. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. You win. You win the points.
I mean, yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, what happens if you give these days, if you put a nation, I'm not even going to say super potency or superpower or global superpower in the wrong hands, what would happen today? I'm going even a nation like mine, in which put the power in the wrong hands. uh, in our case, we're not invading anyone, but we're anyways. I'm not going to get political. It's just putting someone in power. That's more complicated than most people think.
It is.
Because you may get one right, and you may get two wrong.
Yes, I mean, basically what you're saying, I think, is that if you give someone power, it's a huge risk, because regardless of how that power comes to be, if you give them power, their true colors tend to come out. You know, what will they do with the ability to change society or the world? And,
Yes.
you know, pick your anime, but this doesn't work out well.
That's good.
You know what I'm talking about.
I don't watch much anime, but I know enough to.
Yeah, there's plenty of these. You know, Death Note's a good example. There's a bunch of others. Ayumi could speak more. He's the otaku here.
If the internet decides to bring Ayumi back to us.
About Forum Soleus, though, the set piece, right? So we have some playgrounds, we have some hide and seek domes, we've got some slides, yeah, several ponds that used to have a fountain.
I actually laughed when the Warrior of Light is inspecting the slides and stuff, and they're like, this looks like a Guardian contraption, but it doesn't have guns or anything. It just appears to be something for the children, and it's like, and I'm like, what the fuck?
No kidding, they're people. They have kids, all right? Like, they have 4-year-olds who are going to preschool. This is not. You know, does Eorzea have preschool? I don't think so. All right, hail Garlemald.
I had a good laugh, but at the same time, it was a really warm moment, because up until that point, it's understandable. The Warrior of Light has probably only seen Magitech in the battlefield, and them seeing Magitech for the first time used as something as innocent as for children to have fun in a park. That's probably like, what? And then there's the font. There's like a font or something in the middle of Foreign Soleus that, if you talk to Alice, she says this must have something. This must represent something when, but what it is. I mean, she muses about its name after Solus. Maybe it's some place where the Emperor used to sit, and then she muses if there might have been a statue, but then says it's not likely. And it's, if you go to the place, it's like this dome. It's like a dome that, with like a jail or something, like a cage, and inside it there's like a mound of stone with water, and it's like it's been bugging me because if what Alice is musing is right, I'm kind of thinking if this was meant to represent Solus, what it is.
Well, so metaphor, right? So either this is a melted down statue, totally possible, or it's a rock. And if it's a rock, it's a metaphor for being, the cornerstone of the empire.
But then
the
then
rock
there's the
in a-
water there, and it's like,
Hmm.
what is this? Because I mean, the Guardians are. I want to know more about their culture because yes, they of course have high respect for the emperor, and it turned out to be some kind of enough to summon an icon. But I don't think they do. I haven't even seen much of. Uh, what would you call it? Image worshipping. I mean, the only the
No, I
only
don't think there's any of
worshipping
that.
you may consider is to the flag and not to the emperor.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm trying to remember. I actually thought there was some text that made a direct Rome corollary, which is the emperor is deified and all of the religions are disallowed. I thought that was made clear.
Not deified because the Guardians have a religion
I recall
outlawed.
them using the word worship.
Yes.
So I'm using that. Maybe not quite deified, but you follow me.
The closest thing the Guardians
Worship is beyond
would,
veneration. This is not the same thing.
Yeah, it's like great respect and admiration, and yeah, it's enough to manifest a primal.
I think it's a few tiers above admiration. This might just be a difference in word choice, but like if I were to scale them, I would say admiration, reverence, worship. But worship's like 6 tiers above reverence.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
But the
I
reason
mean,
the icon is summoned is because their society has gone to absolute rubble, and they're reaching out for the one thing they think that is left, which is Varys, who they're hearing through a radio, and they aren't sure if he's broadcasting or if he's alive, but it's enough to put them in the emotional state between the despair and the honestly, like, bereft hope, like maybe we can come out of this. That very it's a reach, but it's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And they're just hoping that the emperor
and,
comes back to save them, because otherwise they're screwed.
Yeah, that and the plan with the 10th Legion that ultimately went up in flames.
Yeah, and that was a good gambit. It just didn't work out.
Yeah. And now that we talk about the 10th Legion, we can discuss what happens.
Absolutely. I want to, Ayumi is in the chat, but I wanted to make sure I actually said it. So what happened is that he lost internet and has an outage in his area. It was confirmed. So he's dead in the water till at least 5:43, and that is late because he's Central Time. It's only 3 o'clock Eastern. So he's just in chat on his data, and he'll hang out with us and do stuff. But he's completely screwed right now. Rip. Sorry, Ayumi.
F in the chat. Well,
so
he'll
the
be in
10th
the
Legion
chat.
you wanted to talk about.
I actually liked. I recall myself thinking about the 10th Legion, and of course, it's the 10th Legion because the plan involves anima. That's not very subtle. The subtle one, maybe it's because what the First Legion are holding on to is pretty much an illusion, or someone may call it a dream, and dreams are quite important to Final Fantasy X. And I actually liked. I'm not quite familiar with 10, but that much you, the crew, have told me enough for me to connect the dots. So I was like, yeah, I see where this is going. This is not going to work. This is all the dream and hope of the First Legion, but it's going to go down in flames.
It was pretty clear that this was a slow death. But I wasn't expecting the result. I don't want to. We're actually pretty close to this. I mean, having done all the side quests, this zone took a lot longer than it had to, and so things escalate pretty quickly if you're not doing those. I imagine. I liked.
Yeah, I didn't do any side quests.
We'll not.
Things go pretty quickly.
They do.
In the MSQ if you just skip them all.
Yeah. Arden, what did you think about the pawns? Like, I know that's kind of a simple part of the.
What do you mean by the pawns?
Well, I'm trying to get it into words. So in the camp, right, in the park. I was kind of ruminating on how cold the water must be. It was part of the whole scene, obviously, and you imagine it's not below freezing, but I think it is below freezing because once you put anything in a solution, the freezing temperature drops. I mean, this could be 30 Fahrenheit, it could be 28, it could be 18, 15, and in this freezing, biting cold hellscape, no fire, a frozen leg. Like, if you're alone in the frostbitten woods and you get your leg wet by mistake, you're going to lose that leg. There's no question. It'll be frostbitten in half an hour. So I was just kind of ruminating on, like, how dark this zone is. And,
yeah, like,
right.
The pawns were weird to me because, like, I spent a good chunk of my childhood in upstate New York, and we had a creek on our property, and it regularly dropped, well below 20 Fahrenheit. And so, like, me being the adventurous kid I would go, play in the creek anyway.
Yeah.
But
But you had a warm place to go back to, right?
Like, what really struck me as weird is, they go on and on about how cold Garlemald is, and then, those pawns aren't frozen over. Yeah, like, anyone who's lived in a northern climate knows how quickly still water starts to form a layer of ice.
I guess the question I would have about Garlemald is, like, is there a proper spring? And I'm trying to remember back to the short story with Sid as a child, whether there was...
I recalled one.
You recall, great.
Because Julius speaks of Garlemald when they are by the fire inform Solius after we retrieve the ceruleum tank. Julius speaks of how Garlemald was like when it was not, ice. Destroyed.
Yeah.
By the way, Julius speculates that the ponds aren't frozen because all the muck and grim that it has accumulated and is preventing from freezing. But it's still, when you're doing the quest, you get the debuff of chill to the bone when kind of trying to search the handle for the ceruleum tank. Anyways, they have a spring. They have a spring and summer. I guess in Garlemald it's probably more like the summer. Julius mentions that it's during those he describes as the reprieve from the seasons, and the snow melts and they have like a bit of grass and green blooming, and the sky is mostly clear, and the Gallian children would often climb to the rooftops of the buildings, which are quite high, by the way, to see the sunrise in those clear days.
My question is this like a Nordic or Arctic climate? Is this more
probably yes?
I mean, those are slightly different things, but
I mean, I haven't been in Russia, but Garlemald is pretty much. I'm not going to say Siberia, but kind of.
Well, so Russia has a northern cold water port. I mean, it could be that far north, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's just something I was thinking about. Regarding the temperatures, Meowth, I saw your chat. I'm so sorry. I cannot ever remember Celsius either, except that 0 is freezing. So 32 is freezing in Fahrenheit, if that helps. So below 32 equals 0.
Okay. I'm sorry. I speak Celsius.
We should as well. That movement failed. Maybe next century, hey?
It's fine. So yeah, that and then do we move on to? And then
We
move
go
on
back to Tertium, right?
this.
After we don't find any.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
do
get
we
one,
move?
like what, 1 or 2 things of ceruleum?
Something like that.
Well, allow me to answer to Midnight. I don't think it was like Kurthas pre-Cataclysm, because Kurthas
No, that's too warm.
Kurthas was screwed up by the Cataclysm in elemental levels, so I wouldn't say it's the same.
Yeah, Korthus 1.0 was a lush green alpine area.
Very, very green too. It's like a mountain
Clearly
region.
had a cold winter, no question, but
not the Ishgard we know. Ishgard as we know it is kind of an anomaly in Eorzea, because if you see the world map, such a frozen climate in Eorzea, that's definitely an anomaly.
It's not. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not correct.
But it's explained. It's explained to be in game. It's caused because the calamity screwed that up. So
I guess we should keep in mind that, I mean, they can't keep weather perfect in this game, in any game really, but you would imagine that everything we experience is like north of the equator, because the southern continent is Mericidia, and so everything's kind of north or center north, and so it's spring everywhere else. It's just this placid, regular weather, never changes, springtime, summertime.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, like, that games can't really keep weather straight. That's not entirely true, and it's one of the things that I hope that they consider for the engine rework that they're talking about doing. Because there's technology now to emulate weather.
That's true.
In games.
I'm excited to see it. They haven't, I guess I should have said.
If you ask me, Eorzea is quite similar distributed in climate as of now. Eorzea and in 1.0, it's quite similar to Spain's weather and how it is distributed. Because we've got the hinterlands and the Dravanian forelands, which are mountainous, and the hinterlands are like these. I'm not going to say Irish. Perhaps have you been? You know, Ireland. It's humid. It's rainy, but it's very lush. Kurthas pre-calamity could have been like our northern mountainous region, which only snows
I've still got screenshots.
when it's the winter. The Gridania is basically middle central Spain, when it's it was quite foresty back in the day.
A lot of Central Europe is like this.
And then Ulda is basically a mix between southern Spain and the Sahara Desert in some place, especially southern Thailand and all that. This is this arid region between southern Spain and northern Africa. So I think it's actually I've just Spainified Eorzea.
Yeah, you did. How very selfish of you. So if you know Spain, now you know Eorzea.
I know my country. I know how it's like, and it's not my fault we have strange weather in one nation.
So I think
let me introduce you to Texas.
Yeah, Texas is a problem. So let's move ahead.
Yes.
Are we back at Tertium now?
I believe so. Unless we want to talk about how terribly sad it was going to Ulysses' house.
Oh,
yeah,
but that's later.
Pretty sad.
That's later, actually.
Is it?
It's on the way back to camp.
It's when we're heading back to camp to tell the thing about the eel, and he makes the detour to go to visit Julius's former house.
I think we basically go back to Tertium. We talk to Quintus and think we're helping, and just kidding, we're actually helping to power the war machines. So
psych.
Yeah, it's not for the heaters, guys, it's for the guns. And so we walk back to camp, broken glass, and we stop by Ulysses' house, where he tells us the story of his loss. So he was on his way back to get his family, and when he got there, they had already been tempered, and he was forced to kill them all.
And then we come along and are like, hey, we have a cure for tempering, by
Yeah,
the way.
that doesn't hurt at all.
Like, you understand the Guardians, the Guardians' denial, because if there exists a cure, then they've been basically murdering their own countrymen for what?
For survival, but nothing else.
Yeah.
And of course, me being the complete ancient simp that I am, I couldn't help but think of, like, the parallels they could have gone with the ancient story.
I mean, it's not impossible that they have done so, but not in the obvious way, which is telling you straightforward. Telling you straight up, but you have to infer that. I mean, from the Guardians, I would have to kind of pause to remember all of that, but they actually drew a lot of parallels with the ancients. I recall one with Quintus when he says, "This, by the way, that scene in Julius's house is when he explains the meaning of the Gallian flag and the chain." Quite fitting that anima was their primal. Anyways, what was saying? Yes, that Quintus says something that we must endure even if we're few. Basically, paraphrase. We must endure even if we are few, because if we fall, then and if Garlemald falls, then who is going to be left to remember those who are no longer with us? And it's like, and the moment Quintus said that, I was like, oh god. I was like, oh god, this. Yeah.
Like, I mean,
This
just
was
to cut
not
in,
subtle at all.
I have to say, like, where the girls losing their lives did not break me. The scene with Ulysses and his family, and then the scene with Quintus being real with us, both kind of hit a little bit hard.
For me, none of that really got much of an emotional reaction out of me. Most of my reaction was like, I have several people that I need to DM to warn about the sisters, because it's going to trigger memories of them with their sister, and.
Yeah, we were talking about this in our Discord at some point, semi-privately, and like the idea that this zone is kind of trigger warning content.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way I can think to say it. I mean, for people who have lived a certain life experience, or who have certain worldviews, or don't deal with loss or death or despair very well, it's gonna be a problem. So
I have my opinions on trigger warnings, but
we're not going to get into that.
You know
not
what I
going
mean,
to get into that.
Yeah, please. But you know what I mean, though. You understand what I'm trying
Yes,
to say.
I know.
Okay, very good.
I know. It's just that.
Next time, Andre. I'm kidding.
Yes. Okay. Anyways,
So we go back to base. I'm trying to guide us somewhere. Trying to remember. Yeah, so we get back, and how does that conversation go?
Yeah, basically, Julius sends basically gives Lucia the demands of the First Legion, that that the Elspeth contingent relinquishes their resources and get the hell out of here. And of course, it's not going to happen. And if they refuse, then they would have launch kind of a suicide attack.
Yeah.
Because
give us all of your resources and get the hell out, or we're gonna try to kill you.
Yeah, basically, and it goes wrong because the 10th Legion had already contacted the Ulster contingent to tell them that they couldn't make it, and they decided to join their forces to the Orsian alliance.
That's right. I
And
remember this scene a little bit better now, and one of my favorite finishing touches they put on it was having oh gosh, what's his name? The White Mage brother.
Arun.
Arun, that's right. I love that he just throws out arrow 3 and they're like, "Oh, okay, hold on."
He's just literally like, settle down, children.
Yeah, he's like, "I'm like 400 years old. I just look little. Do you see this wind? Do you see what I can do here? Chill out. Chill out."
Yes, and basically, yeah, and I mean, the events after that don't help to make you realize that with the 10th Legion and some other legions perhaps, because the 10th had the support of at least one or two, I don't recall which one. The when they sought the Ursian alliance, this is basically Garlemald joining the alliance. And because of what happens afterwards, and still, we don't pause to consider this, but effectively,
Yes, you're
it
right.
happened.
Yeah, effectively, this we're seeing it. We're seeing the reaction of a legion that wasn't part of that plan, but basically every other legion that currently exists is either under control, being given some sort of healing salve for, that campaign, or back in Eorzea, just straight up joining up. So we have an accidental global alliance now, almost.
Yeah. So yeah, and what happens next is something quite ancient Roman.
Do tell.
Well, that's the infamous and probably one
The
of the
Super Bowl
most.
scene.
That's offensive, Bonnie. He bought 99% of the skill upgrade to get Super Bowl out and didn't quite finish his training.
Man, like within
The
a
Super
week,
Bowl
someone
Line
sent
team.
me a Super Bowl line macro based on him because I play Gunbreaker.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just like, oh my god, that's terrible. I love it.
I'm going to hell for laughing.
That's okay. It's cozy here.
Yeah, well, so yeah.
He blows his brains out, guys. It's a metaphor.
Yes, but yeah, but I mean, yeah, Arden just ruined the entire gravity of the situation. But fine.
No, we'll
You're
backtrack.
welcome.
Please go ahead and tell us how that is very Roman. I want to know. It's interesting.
Well, it's quite Roman because you have to understand the Roman, the Roman, the Roman culture to get why this is in this sense. The Bushido Code, for those who are familiar with Japan, and
It's very similar.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's the Romans were not as strict. Their culture was, if the Greeks were more about enlightenment, because art and beautiful and understanding the world, the Romans' enlightenment was more about putting knowledge to practical use. And one of their that's why they have that's why our society these days, Western society in particular, is still modeled after the Roman Empire, because that's our foundation basically of any Western civilization.
Yeah, that's the lineage. There's no question.
We still use Roman law. It's in
even down to the Eagle Standard. We use that. I mean, it goes.
Yes,
It's very
exactly.
deep. It's a cultural thing. It's just very
Yes,
deep.
but
Historical,
one thing that has not survived is the so to speak is one thing the Romans had in common with the Japanese, and the Japanese is that the concept of suicide was not one thing to was it wasn't something that they regarded as dishonorable. On the contrary, it was either an honorable way for a general to uh, just
Rather than being captured.
rather than being captured, or because they committed a terrible failure
Mm-hmm.
or something. It was honorable that they would take first. It was honorable that they would release their soldiers from duty to protect them too, and take responsibilities on their own life.
Thank you. Yeah.
They also agreed more often than not, the Roman generals, if their legion was captured or subdued, their centurion would offer his life for the rest to be spared. That was a Roman custom, and um, and if they failed, they would they preferably they offer their lives. They preferably kill themselves, but if they couldn't, then they would allow themselves to be killed to save the rest. And that's one thing we see Quintus do. That's the first thing he does, actually.
Yep, absolutely.
And
It's a little. There's more to that as well, right? In the Roman system, gosh, which battle was it? They lost all of the legions, and the standards were lost, and this was a pain point for the empire for a long time, to the point where several reigns later they went back and recovered the standards.
yes.
So this is part of that honor
Yes.
code, right? Where if just the captured aspect, rather than being captured, they would commit suicide. Rather than having their underlings die for their crimes, they would commit suicide. And rather than having their standard be captured, they would do everything in their power to get that thing back to the capital. It had a religious
Yes.
level of importance.
Yes, and the Roman standard was quite important to them as well, and we see that in one of the side quests, actually. That's the symbol of their civilization. They really respected it. And but one thing is that you have to understand too the other Roman quite Roman side of the culture, and it's like suicide. This was in the military aspect. In the civilian aspect, uh, it's it was mostly associated with failure. Like Seneca, for example, the philosopher Seneca. He was
Yes.
he was mentor to Emperor. I don't know, was it Nero? Was it Caligula? I can recall. But of course, when the emperor turned out to be what he was, Seneca considered it a personal failure that he was his mentor and his student turned out to be this way. So as a way to to deal with this failure, he took his own life and say, "Well, I'm out. I don't want anything else to do. I've done my job and it went wrong." And but it was not unusual for the Romans to simply, if they consider they really liked the spectacles, and they of course adored the Greek stage plays, and the Romans mostly consider life as as being upon a stage, and the moment you decide to step down the stage, you would end your own life, and and the people perfectly understood that. It's like taking a bow and leaving and exit stage left. So that's, of course, that's perhaps in our days it's kind of it's actually kind of like the ancients, when people say they're like they're like they don't see suicide as a bad thing. No, but
Yeah.
neither did the Romans.
Just a quick sidebar on this, and then I'd like to move on to we're gonna just like set up that we're going to babble and maybe not completely go into it. But regarding regarding this Rome aspect, it's been 20 years now, but any of you who've seen the movie, the Hollywood movie Gladiator, will remember the line, "The deeds we perform in life echo in eternity." This society did believe in an afterlife. They did believe in their actions having a meaning, and much like with the ancients in this game, if they've performed their role to the letter, they're okay with returning to the star, and that's the same kind of vibe that had.
Yes, the Romans. I mean, most people. You'll excuse me, Americans, but I have to say something. Hollywood ruined the Roman Empire.
By and large, yes. That movie's pretty okay, to be honest.
Yes, but still, it's kind of. I would go into what happened with Hollywood, the cinema industry after World War II.
That'll be the cinematic industry after World War II. How Hollywood ruined Rome podcast.
Yeah, the long story short, because Benito Mussolini had the great idea to advertise his fascist Italy as the Roman Empire reborn. The Americans had no better idea than to, as a way of propaganda, because we still do that today, because it serves ideology purposes. They decided to start picturing the Romans as, well, like they were an empire, but they were not savages, okay? Anyways.
So, Camp Broken Glass and kind of settling down the set piece and setting up the movement forward. Do you have anything for us, Arden? I'm at a loss.
Magni intruding on the couple that is Serena and Sadu, being like, hey, y'all want a threesome? Hey, ladies.
Are you my Nama?
Are you both my Nama?
Do you want to be my Nami?
God. Little son.
I mean, that
That
just means
poor guy.
Sadu tops, right?
Listen, I know he's an asshole, but he just wants to find love and has no idea what he's doing. He has no clue what he's doing. He's such an idiot.
He's emotionally challenged. It's okay.
Yes.
That's all right. I mean, that clan of they're an odd group.
It's okay. 2 expansions from now, we're gonna find out that Heian has been his Nama all along or something.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. But yeah, well, yeah. I would if now that we're discussing the scene with Quintus, I have to point one thing. This is perhaps a visual thing, but the scene with Quintus' suicide is probably one of the best scenes cinematographed in terms of cutscenes I've ever seen in this game.
Yeah, they keep improving.
I don't mean in animation or in that way. I mean in composition and how how it's and the progression of the scene.
Oh no,
the
I
shots,
agree.
the
I agree
angles.
completely. Yeah, the cinematography and like the whole storyboarding and the way they're framing all the shots. It's been they've gotten so good.
Yeah, they just keep improving with their cinematography and just visual and audio storytelling alike. Because the sound effects and the music and the cutscenes has all been really good too.
Yeah, I'm super impressed.
It's really great, and also I think we should mention the Guardian flag. I mean, of course, it's deliberate symbolism that when Quintus kills himself, the blood splatters in the center of the flag.
Yeah, that's actually
the blood of the
cinematography as well,
fallen.
right? So that's it's breaking the chains that bind the citizenry around them and just have your freedom. I'm done. I tried.
Yes,
You were
that
released
too.
from
It's
service.
like the Guardian banner. It's like a binding chain that
Yep.
that binds the Guardians together to make them stronger. But it's also a double-edged blade because it has bound them to a past of fear and hatred to those who have been, well, bullying them. So this is like breaking the chains in that aspect, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, the chain is an important symbol for them,
It's a
but it can
multi-layered.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like specifically that the central link is the blood of the fallen that they strive to remember. Uh, I think it's like the Guardians will now form new bondings with other people, still honoring those who gave their lives for their homeland
Shall
as
I
well.
say, for those we have lost, for those we can yet save?
Yeah, basically. I mean, yes, absolutely. The
Technically.
Guardians. It's like I love these things because it's like you take stuff that it's been hammered onto you as the good guys, and then it turns out that the so-called evil empire is driven by the same mantra, basically.
Yeah. The lesson here is that we truly are all the same, and only our
Yes.
circumstances differ. I mean, we are one species,
Yes.
the end, and so all of humanity, sundered or not, we're really in this together. And Walker does a great job of telling that story literally, but it's more potent, like as a metaphor. I'm imagining 500-year time skip, and we're basically Star Trek. I mean, global civilization.
Something.
Yeah.
The circumstances of our creation do not define our worth.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's actually true, absolutely foul, because in the end, every single character in the game, even those who have previously been villains, they turn out to help you.
Yeah.
Basically, they unite against the Endsinger.
Yeah.
This is going
It's okay.
way ahead,
We've all
but
completed MSQ.
I do really hope we have some kind of time skip. I would love a several 100-year time skip, honestly, but I
Yeah.
don't think we'll
I
get
imagine
one.
we won't, but I agree with you, Arden. I would love to see it. You know, even
So,
if it's
yeah,
just visit
and-
UC, just something timey-wimey, but not backwards. I would like to see.
So moving into what happens in the scene back in Broken Glass Camp. That's a that's a meaty scene actually, because that's when Julius and the other refugees are taken to, well, they're brought
Yeah.
to camp Broken Glass.
Yeah, this scene is very meaty, and it'll be an excellent place to stop.
Yeah.
So just to set the scene, it's nighttime. All of the plans have gone to ruin, and I think we're taking a meal.
Yes, something
Yes.
warm, and then
Getting
they
all the
come.
nom noms.
Yeah, they come, and Julius is like watching all this kind of all those people around the bonfire and stuff. Then come best couple Sicard and Emmanuel
Mm-hmm.
to start bickering about who did best with the heaters.
Who the best e-boy is.
Yes. And then I think the most poignant moment is when the Alamigan resistance guy, it's the one who hands Julius the cup of
Yeah,
whatever.
and it breaks him realizing that these are not monsters who wield magic. These are also
Not just
human
that,
people
it's
who are the
just-
same.
Not just that, but he feels at some place safe, with warmth, with people around that actually care for him. And he's so young, and he had to murder his family. He had to bear it for because he's a soldier. He had to take care of those in Tertium as well. and that's that moment is when Julius probably has had the opportunity to cry for all he has lost.
Yeah, he finally
That's
breaks and lets it out. He can't
and
be older than 17 to 22. I don't think he's young,
Yes.
but he's not old. Like, brain development's 24, guys. Like, he's still in the mix of, and what a thing to lose. Everything. Family, leader, only remaining
Homeland.
father figure, homeland. It's all gone. It's all gone.
Yes, and that's when the Elpis flower turns blue, which makes me think it's not well. I think there's a bit of there's sorrow involved, but at the same time it's like comfort. It's kind of relief. It's sadness born from loss, but at the same time it's a relief of the burden when he finally breaks down and cries all that he has been swallowing up, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's yes. I'm still trying to think what each color of the Elpis bloom symbolizes.
I was as
But
well.
I think that
it got complicated because every single scene that it changed had a hint of joy, except the black. Had a hint of it, you know.
Yes, there's joy, but I think in colder colors, in the colder so in the blue violet spectrum is like tinge with sorrow, but it's not a destructive sorrow. It's more like the sorrow that makes us stronger, so to speak. Like the violet with Hermes, and the blue with sadness and comfort at the same time. I mean, in this moment, I don't know if you watched the movie, the Disney movie Inside Out.
Yeah,
But
I've seen it. Yeah, the colors.
you check that you watch that one. I was really reminded of that movie with the Elpis bloom.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly the right concept. I don't think the colors line up, but maybe
No,
they do. I
but
mean, Joy
not
wears
sure.
yellow. She wears yellow but has blue hair, so that's happiness with a hint of sad. But sadness is blue,
Yes.
disgust is green, fear is purple, black, and anger is red.
Yes.
So
But
yeah,
anger
maybe
is
this is
courage
just sadness.
too.
Maybe it's sadness. That's just what blue is, straight up.
Sadness, but sadness is what allows to it's what paves the way
Some sort
for
of
joy to
curative
yeah.
sadness.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, and then the tower happens, and Fan Daniel decides to snatch us away for a dinner date.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I recall that.
Let's touch on that battle scenario next time, because we still have to get through that and through the Tower of Babel and up to the moon for the third episode in a row.
It could be.
There is so much content in the zone. Oh my god.
I'm just going to say that Arden got to Garlemald earlier. Well, to that part of the dinner date earlier than I did. Then I think I got ahead a bit for a while, but there was some DM me in Discord and about something going on, and I was like what? And then I got to the moment and I was like, oh, now I understand.
Yeah, I was keyboard smashing really hard in Meowth's DMs, and she was like, the fuck, basically, and I was like, you'll know when you get there.
You'll know when you
and
know.
She sure did.
Oh,
then I proceeded to key smash in reply.
Colrath just linked in the chat a guess at the color meaning link. I'm gonna open
I'll
it.
have to check that later then.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm really bugged by the Elpis bloom colors, because like I said, I did I say that last stream? I don't know, but they match the eyes of the ancients we've met, and I'm like,
I don't know if you did mention that. I have seen that chat though.
Yeah, it's in Discord somewhere.
Yeah, this is actually a really good chart. I recommend all of you look at it. This person is saying that the gray is anxiety, yellow
Yeah,
is
that
joy,
one is
blue is
spelled out.
acceptance, not sadness, according to this person. Sorrow, hope, friendship, gratitude, contentment.
Hmm.
It's a good take, good interpretation.
Hmm.
I'll have to look through cutscenes and see if I agree, but I like it on its face.
That and quest names, because some of them just outright say
They
color
do.
of blank.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
Acceptance is a good one for the blue, actually. Yes.
Given that scene.
Yes.
Well,
And it matches with Bernard's eyes.
yeah, thank you, Colrath. Please do put that tweet in Discord, and we'll see you there.
Yes,
Speaking of which, I did do
absolutely.
a link to the Discord. As always, please talk to your friends, get them on board. If they like lore, this is the place. So, welcome as always, and we will close out the stream here. And I guess you all can expect where we'll be next week. Part 5, the end of Garlemald, hopefully the tower, but as you've noticed, there is a lot of content, and we love talking about it. So thank you all for being here. And
If someone in Discord wants me and Fao to talk about the Roman Empire, just ask.
It's been so long. I'm calling Meowth the expert now, but I also did 3 years of Latin in high school and studied classics in college. So we can talk about that sometimes, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy those conversations, Meowth. They're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I mean, I know the Roman Empire because one, I read a lot of Asterix comics all my life. Even though I mean, I have a lot of comic culture, European comic culture, that is to say, and the other one is because I'm a Julius Caesar simp.
Yeah, that's fair. I as usual have the balanced view of him, which is he did a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff in an era where the bad stuff wasn't stuff people were worried about. And it's really hard to sit in judgment as a modern, but you can still look back and see when there was good and when there was bad. So I guess we'll raid. Who do we have today? Should we raid Rook?
I don't know. I don't have it up. I've been shooting people in the head this entire time.
All right. Well, we're gonna raid Rook, and she's playing Guild Wars 2 right now. Please enjoy her. One of our guests, one of our friends,
yes.
and it's been a minute. I hope we can talk soon. So
Yeah.
I'll kick that off after credits.
One day we have to talk about Guild Wars 2 and maybe influences on 14.
We so have to. Yes, please, because I enjoyed that. I got to level 50 in that game, and I quit because it was fine. It's just, it did its run, and then I was bored.
Highly recommend you to play it. It's more, if you want, in a casual way. It's not real demanding. I play Guild Wars 2 when I feel burnt out from 14 and I need to think of another thing, get another thing. So I do this sometimes with Genshin Impact now. But Guild Wars 2 is my relax.
It's your go-to game.
Go-to game, yes.
Yeah, I tend to play other stuff, but we'll talk about that on the Discord. Please join it, bring your friends, advertise us, get people to come, because we want more people to talk with us. It's been an incredible ride, and thank you for coming every week. More friends is the goal. All right, guys, we're going to outro movie. See you next week.
See you.
Bye.